Aloha, Michael Mazzella here, and how's it going, gang? This video I'm putting together so we can do walking through a renovation of a property, a rehab, step by step, room by room. Okay, you ready? Now I suggest that you take some notes, have your notebook ready, because there's some key points that I'm going to cover here. Now the first thing that we're going to do in renovating a property is set our budget. And our budget is primarily going to be based on the neighborhood that we're in. So we'll do a drive-by, as we drive through that neighborhood, we're going to get a feel for where we are in terms of price points. For instance, is this a higher-end neighborhood? Is it a middle-class or blue-collar, working-class neighborhood? Is it more of a lower-end neighborhood? All we're trying to do is get a general feel for the renovation. The reason is we don't want to over rehab the property, and that's actually the single biggest mistake that rehabbers make is over renovating. Over renovating, I'm talking still about budget here. So by spending more money, then you're going to get a return. So dollar for dollar, every dollar I spend on a rehab, I want to be able to get back at least $2, okay, on the from forced appreciation. So generally, if I'm rehabbing a condominium that's at the median price, which right now is about $330,000. So roughly the median price and below, I know I can renovate that condominium for $15,000 or less. Often I've done them in less, but I'll set a budget for $15,000. That enables me to do, carpeting, fix up the kitchen, all the things that we're going to talk about, repaint it, and for $15,000. Why only 15? Because with a condo, we're pretty much renovating inside of a box. We don't have to worry about some of the bigger ticket items when you're doing a condo, such as the curb appeal. We don't have to worry about that. The roof, the foundation, the major systems like plumbing and electrical are largely going to be issues with the building, not with one particular condo unit. So a lot of the big ticket items that we may encounter in renovating do not apply if we're doing a condo. So it's just like a little renovation in a box. Is largely cosmetic. So I can usually get those done, almost always get those done for $15,000 and less. And just remember that is a median price and below. If we're doing a higher end condo, something out in like one of the expensive ones in Waikiki or Hawaii Kai, or someplace where you have higher end, then of course you're going to spend more. I did a condo in Hawaii Kai, for instance, and my budget was about $45,000 because you're buying more expensive stuff, okay, throughout, and you want to make it nice. So the budgeting rule that I gave you applies to properties, condos that are roughly in the median price and below. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to a single-family home, my minimum budget is going to be about $25,000 on the low side, and on the high end, if I have to cut it off at $80,000, I know that I can make most ugly houses look pretty decent for $80,000. Where for the sake of doing a good deal, I may cut it off and just do all of the most important stuff and stop at $80,000, put it on the market, and the house is going to look fine and it'll sell. So typically my budget is within that range, and then the variable is going to be, again, depending on the neighborhood and what that neighborhood requires and how much, just how ugly the house is. Okay. Now, I like to remind myself that I'm the cheapskate rehabber. This kind of helps me mitigate the natural tendency that we all have to over-renovate a property. So of all of the things on my gig list that the home inspector goes through that I have and that my home inspector puts together, I'm probably only going to hit the bigger items and then, get it about 80 or about 90% done in terms of the things that I would really like to do. I won't do everything intentionally. I want to back it off a little bit just to make sure that I'm not over rehabbing. Now, that said, the items that we're going to, once we do set our budget, we're going to hit those items hard and we're going to make them look really nice and we'll do that in the most cost-effective way. Now, one of the things that, I guess one of the fundamentals that I apply to rehabbing is I remember that when a buyer comes to buy my house, to buy my property, there are 3 decision points that are going to influence their decision more than anything else. And that is the curb appeal, kitchen, and bathrooms. Curb appeal, kitchen, and bathrooms. And so those are the 3 trigger points where a buyer will decide to buy your property. Therefore, as a rehabber, when I do the rehab, that's exactly what I'm going to focus my budget on. So my budget will be focused on curb appeal, kitchen, and bathrooms. That's where I'm going to focus, and everything else is paint, carpet, and fixtures. So keep that in mind. Remember the 3 key decision points: curb appeal, kitchen, and bathrooms, and then everything else is paint, carpet, and fixtures. Okay? So let's talk next about curb appeal. And here is a house. We'll use this as an example. This is a house that I flipped in Kailua. And you can see that this is not the ugliest house that I've ever flipped, but it is pretty ratty looking. There are some really good things that we can do without spending a lot of money to really brush this house up and make it look good. Let's point out some things here. So the lawn and the vegetation is obviously not being kept well. It has the older jealousy type windows, and they've not been maintained either. There's the ugly window air conditioning unit. The choice of colors is not very good with that dark. They are doing two-tone, which I do like, but the choice of colors is just not good. They're doing a with that really dark green, and then also you've got a really old mailbox. So there's a lot that can be done here. So in this picture you can see the front area, how messy that was, and here they are gutting the interior. And there's a lot going on in this picture, so let's talk about this for a bit. Start all the way to the left. So behind my assistant's arm, you can see that there is some work being done on the front door. The front door is obviously a focal point, so we want to make sure that that is always looking good. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And look at the 2 windows there in the front. Those are the old 1960s vintage jealousies. So jealousies tend to date the property. We decided that I did have some room in the budget. I decided to upgrade the windows in this property. And then also notice that they're prepping the exterior walls for paint. And also to the far right you can see I'm actually experimenting when I bought a couple of small sample colors, and I wanted to see what they looked like before I make a final decision on the color to paint the entire house. And in this picture, you can see this is one of the windows actually going in, being installed. And you can see it just makes a huge difference from the old jealousies. So as long as my budget can afford this, I will redo the windows and upgrade the windows when I can. And in a case where your budget may not be able to, what you can do is just upgrade the windows that are facing the front, for the curb appeal. Again, it's not as important to upgrade windows that are facing the back. So if my budget doesn't cover the whole window upgrade, I will just do those windows that are visible from the front of the house. And in this picture, you can see the door, us upgrading the front door. Now this is obviously a focal point, the front door and the front entrance area, so it really does need to be looking good. We will focus here. This is a focal point. If we are able to salvage the door, the front door, by sanding it and repainting it, and replacing the hardware, upgrading the hardware, then I'll do that. And in this particular case, this house, we were able to do that. And you can see here we're building out the frame, and we sanded, painted the door, and I upgraded all the hardware. If I can't do that, if the door is just too far gone to salvage, then it's fine to spend the money and just get a brand new door. Now here you can see that we're progressing along with this rehab, and the curb appeal is coming along. So we've finished out the windows, and you can see also that we've done the two-tone paint, the base color of the house, and then we trimmed it with a darker color that matches very well. So that's the two-tone paint. And you can also see that we started the landscaping in the front. We have not yet added the sod and the grass, and we usually save that toward near the very end. But sometimes people will ask me, well, how do I decide what colors to paint my house or how to landscape it? And what I will typically do is drive through a neighborhood, that same neighborhood, and I'll look for what is working in that neighborhood. I'll find a nice match of colors like this one, and I will find a nice landscaping that I like, and I will also often bring my painter with me on that little tour through the neighborhood, or my landscaper, and I'll tell him, hey, look, right there, that's what I like. Let's try to replicate that. Only I want less expensive plants. But we will also look for good, paint scheme that works pretty well too, and then we'll go and we'll use that for our place. So you don't have to be original in this business. You can find something that's already working well in the neighborhood, and I've done that very effectively. And here is the finished product. We're all done. You can see the house is now up for sale. The lawn is finished, and we're all very happy with the way that turned out. So a house that recently looked like that, as an ugly house, now a couple of months later looks like that, and that is our finished product and why we love flipping houses. Here is a house that I flipped in Waipio. You can see how ratty that looked, and here's what it looked like when we were done. You can see it makes a really big difference. And there's the mailbox, and notice that the footprint of the curb appeal is pretty small. I only have to landscape what is in the front. The stuff that is behind the brown gate there in the backyard and the sides, I don't really have to worry about that because it's not curb appeal. So just make a note of that a lot of these properties in Hawaii, they do have a small footprint in terms of the landscaping that needs to be done in the front to improve your curb appeal. And this was an example, but you can see there was just a huge difference with a little bit of paint, a new mailbox, and some landscaping that we did on this one. Here is a house that I flipped on Mariner's Ridge in Hawaii Kai, and we're trying to bring some more attractiveness to the front door area. So we're taking a standard concrete step and stoop area and adding some tile to it, and in this case we're using slate. And this is how it turned out, and as you can see, it adds a lot of appeal and elegance to the front door area. Now this is the same property in Mariner's Ridge. There's a lot going on here. We're removing a big chain link fence, and also notice that ugly mailbox we're getting rid of, chopping up the ground so that we can prepare it for sod and landscaping. This is the following day. Notice that also the painters are in action doing the two-tone colors. And here's the sod going in. And you can see it makes a really, really big difference just over the course of 1 or 2 days. And of course we added a brand new mailbox too. And here is a teardown that we flipped in Palolo Valley. That's what it looked like when we started, and that's what it looked like when it was all done. And we were really happy with the outcome. I'm sure the neighbors were pleasantly surprised too. So let's do a short recap of curb appeal. Look around, start by looking around the neighborhood, see what works and what looks well in the area, get a sense for how things look on your block. You want your house, obviously, to compare very favorably to the houses that are around it. Select a good two-tone color scheme for the outside of your house. If you've already got one that you've done previously, it's okay. You go with what works. And same goes for landscaping. I focus on the front, what can be seen from the road, and I'm not as concerned with I don't want to spend too much money on the sides of the house and the backyard. Only things that can be seen from the front. Grass in that front area, that front footprint makes a huge, huge difference. We usually put that in right near the very end and keep it green and watered. The front door and the entrance area, of course, you're going to focus on that because that is a visual focus point. New mailbox, and also we're going to pay attention to the outside lighting. Next, we're going to talk about kitchens. And kitchens obviously is one of the biggest focal points of the house, and it's one of the big selling points of the house. So I'm going to show you how to do an awesome kitchen and how to save money while doing it, yet staying focused on the most important aspects of the kitchen. And kitchens are one of my favorite rooms. It happens to be the single room throughout the house where you'll spend more of your money, more of your allocated budget than any other single room. And as I mentioned, the kitchen is the focal point of the house. So this is where you're going to pull out all the stops. Once you get them into your house, once they like the curb appeal and you get them in the door, look at your kitchen as your next big opportunity to put the hook in your buyer. In this picture, you're looking at a kitchen. This is something that we did over on the windward side. And a lot of the houses that you're going to buy, a lot of the older, ugly houses, are going to be built in the 1960s or 70s. This one was built in, I believe, 1967, 1968. And, there's nothing that could be salvaged in a kitchen like this. And it had to be completely gutted. And one point I want you to notice is look at the ceiling and look at that drop ceiling and watch what happens in the next picture. So in here, this shows that it was completely gutted, and everything that you see is gone. It's been stripped back to the walls. And also notice we ripped the ceiling out, and we found a nice structure with the beams like that. So we were able to, paint those, restore them, and paint them, and it came out really nice looking at the end. I'll show you a picture when we're all done. But also it gives the feeling that it's actually a larger room, although we didn't increase the actual square footage. So it gives the sense of a larger room, and we did that throughout the house in this particular house. And here is the same kitchen, just from a different view. And here is that same view of the kitchen once we gutted it. Now this is the finished kitchen. This was a few weeks later, and you can see that it's completely transformed. It looked nothing like it used to. Now it's a completely modern kitchen. So let's take a look. We've got let's start with the floors on this, and we'll just kind of use this one as an example. For kitchens. So we'll always do when it comes to the floors, it's not a good idea to go with wooden floors in your kitchens, or carpet for that matter, because these are likely to become wet floors. For kitchens and bathrooms, I will always use a ceramic tile, and that's what you see here. Note that we did a diagonal layout, which also helps to give it the illusion of size. The size and space. And when it comes to ceramic tile, I don't get expensive tile. I find that if I buy my tile at 75 cents or even $1 and less and lay it in, it's still going to be great tile. It's going to be a nice upgrade from what was once there. A lot of times it's just, like in this case, was just a laminate floor, and it is a huge difference by the time we were done. So once again, ceramic tile in kitchens and bathrooms, and I always get tile that's at least 12 inches by 12 inches. If you want to get a little fancier, get the 18-inch by 18-inch. Go with larger tiles rather than smaller tiles for floors. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about are the appliances. So we're going to go with stainless steel appliances. And a lot of people think that they're more expensive. They used to be. Today they're pretty much about the same price. Yet it does. It's usually going to be an upgrade. It makes the kitchen look nicer. When it comes to the range, I will always get a glass top range. Okay, and as opposed to the coils, never get the coils unless you're going to outfit a rental unit. But for anything that we're going to sell Make sure that the range you get is stainless steel and glass top, and they're pretty inexpensive. We pick up ours for around $400. Brand new. Above the range, we will always configure an OTR, which stands for over the range. It's a microwave, and you can see that we've got this here. I'll show you some other pictures of other units that we've done, but we'll almost always put an OTR, install an OTR. It helps with additional counter space that your buyer is going to come in. They don't have to think about having a big microwave sitting on their countertops. You get it up and off, and it's out of the way, yet it's right there for them also. So an OTR. And of course, all of these appliances are going to be stainless steel. Looking at the dishwasher over there in the middle, if the unit I'm renovating was previously configured and had the plumbing for a dishwasher, I will add a new dishwasher. Whereas if it did not, I'm not going to rip out cabinetry to install one. And the reason for that is that I find that my customers, the retail buyers of my houses, they're usually about 50-50 as to whether they actually want one or not. So I tend to go with the flow. And then when it comes to the refrigerator, I will usually get a refrigerator with vertical doors, and I like to get one that has an outside dispenser for easy access. And then, given the criteria that I just gave you, I will get usually the least expensive one that I can find that will meet this criteria. Talk about the 4 levels of cabinetry that we can put into our kitchens. And as a cheapskate rehabber, always being cost conscious and knowing that it's all about the numbers at the end of the day, I have 4 different levels of cabinetry. We're going to focus on the least expensive one that we can do within that house, depending on what we were given, what kind of kitchen we inherited, what we have to work with. So number 1, in the least expensive, if we're able to do this, I will paint the existing cabinets. I'll sand them, paint them, and upgrade the hardware. So number 1, I will sand them, paint them, and upgrade the hardware. And this works sometimes when I get the old wooden cabinets. Usually they're like a darker brown wood. We're able to sand them out, put a couple of coats of primer, and paint them. Often my painters, we will make them white at that point, but they still look new and fresh. And of course, we're coming in and upgrading the hardware too. So that's number 1. If we can't do that, we're going to move on to number 2. Number 2 is refacing. And there are 2 main parts to cabinetry. There's the box, and then there's the outside, which are the doors and the faces of the drawers. Okay, and that's known as the face. But the box will usually have twice the lifespan of the faces, because the doors and the fronts of the drawers are what gets all of the wear and tear over the years. So sometimes you can do that. You're able to do a refacing and put brand new doors and drawer faces on your cabinetry, and it will give it a complete upgrade because your boxes are already in very good condition. And then they will look brand new, and of course you're going to upgrade the hardware. And that's the second thing that you can sometimes do that too and save a lot of costs. And if you can't do 1 or 2, then we're going to move on to number 3. Now we're talking about replacing the cabinetry altogether. We're going to go to Lowe's or Home Depot, and we're going to get one of the cabinet models that they have in stock. So it's on the shelf. You don't have to wait for it to be configured and shipped over from the mainland. They have them. There's usually about 3 different colors to choose from. There's a light pine wood, there's a white, and then there's a darker cherry wood. And we've been able to do that quite a few times. And they will, you bring in the dimensions of your kitchen. They will, where the plumbing outlets are, where you want the appliances to go, and they'll use their computer software and configure out a kitchen for you, and using mix and match pieces of the different sets that they have to configure your cabinetry. And that's for the next lowest cost. And failing any of those 3, if you cannot do any of those 3, then you need to go with custom cabinetry. And now, fortunately, I have a couple of very good suppliers of custom cabinetry, so we're able to do that actually sometimes even in place of number 3, where we'll just come in and get a quote from them right off the bat, and it's a very good price. So what you see right here in this picture of this kitchen, this was a custom job. Note that we went with the cherry wood color. We use the same, pretty much go with the same theme for metal throughout the house for all of our fixtures. We're using a brushed nickel, so we'll use that on all the cabinetry. We'll also use it in the lighting. We'll use it in the bathrooms later on for the hardware, and we try to in the doorknobs even. So we'll try to keep all of our fixtures consistent throughout the house. So getting back to the cabinetry, though, we'll replace all the hardware with the brushed nickel. We're coming in with brand new cherry wood, and then we'll top it off with black granite. And that color combination, combined with the lighter floors that we're doing, a beige tile and stainless steel, note the appliances that are stainless steel also are highlighted in black also. So it just works. The colors look good, and it looks good in any kitchen, whether you're doing this in Mililani or North Shore or Kaneohe or in town. It doesn't matter. It looks good everywhere. So once we get it down, we're going to roll with it, and we pretty much do the same things every time in our kitchens. Okay. Now, next I want to talk about lighting. So there are 2 aspects of lighting to consider. Number 1 is the actual lumens of your lights. How bright is it? And when it comes to your kitchens, and later we'll talk about bathrooms, you're focusing. These are focal points. You're putting a good bit of your budget, your renovation budget, into these areas. So you might as well brighten them up. Make them bright. You don't want to have a dimly lit kitchen or a dimly lit bathroom. So make sure, number 1, you have enough lumens, and then number 2, make sure that you have also that your lights are upgraded and they're modernized. Every decade or so, the lighting kind of goes out of style. You need to get more modernized stuff. Okay, you don't have to spend a lot of money. When we get into bathrooms, I'll show you one of the tricks that we do to really cut our costs and to have great lighting at a low cost. Okay, so lighting. Number 1, make sure it's bright enough, especially in your kitchens. And number 2, make sure that it's modernized. And another thing that we do is I will also put hockey puck lights underneath the cabinetry. And what that does is it'll cast down a really nice light onto your countertops, and that really adds a nice glow. It's a nice pizzazz. It gives a wow effect to your kitchens, and for a relatively low cost. So we will then come in and have our electrician install the hockey puck lighting, okay, into our kitchens underneath the cabinets. Okay, let's talk about sinks now. So if you go with stainless steel sink, you usually can't go wrong. And stainless steel sinks are great, and that's what we do most of the time. And you need to give some consideration to your faucet. Now, earlier I told you that the focal point of the house is your kitchen. Well, once you're in the kitchen, where's the focal point of the kitchen? The focal point of the kitchen is at the sink. So therefore, and a lot of the sinks are configured in such a way where you have a window right there where you can look out and have a view. But you need to have a nice faucet. This is one area you don't want to go cheap. You want to get a really nice mid-grade to upper mid-grade faucet. Okay, in your kitchen. So when it comes, because fixtures tend to be a focal point, but it's especially true of your kitchen faucet. So typically I'm spending at least $250 to $400, right in that range, and getting a really nice faucet for my house. That's one place we don't take shortcuts, because that's, like I said, a focal point. Okay, so stainless steel sinks, and if you can save the old one, a lot of times we can polish them up with some baby oil, and they look really good when we display them. They're easy to, when we have an open house, we wipe them down with baby oil, and they look brand new. So they tend to be pretty sturdy. But if you have to replace one, they're only $70 or less to replace a stainless steel sink, so that's not a problem if you need to do that. We're going to put the money goes into the faucet. All right, so here you can see this is a different kitchen. We've got some of the standard things that we're looking for. You got stainless steel, you got a glass top range, you have an OTR, you got the cherry wood with black countertops. I want to put in a backsplash here though, and we decided not only to just do behind the range to meet code, but we thought because it's decorative stone that we're using, we went around the whole kitchen with this. So that's natural stone, and this is what it looked like when we were finished. So we're pretty happy with how this turned out, and I decided to do this in the next several rehabs, when we did kitchens. Something works, we go with it. This one here, this was a different house. We just did the backsplash area right behind the range. Here's another completed kitchen. This one was up on North Shore. This one was in town. You can see some of the same things that we're doing in each of them. Here's a before picture, YPO house that I flipped. Look at how small and ugly. Look how it was boxed in. Notice the glass sliding door there on the left. We're going to completely remove that and blow this kitchen out. You cannot believe that is the same kitchen. But we did all of the fundamental things that I've taught you. We've got the tile floors. We've got the cabinets, cherry wood with black granite. We have the brushed nickel fixtures throughout. You've got stainless steel, glass top, OTR, right? We've got the backsplash. We put it all together there in a classic L-shaped kitchen. Here's another one. This one was up on Mariner's Ridge, old 1970 vintage. Here we gutted it, and I knocked down some walls to open it up some more. And here's with the cabinets installed. This particular day, the granite is going in. So as the granite goes in, it really, really comes together. And there it is, almost finished. Appliances are in, and the last thing we did was to put in the stone backsplash. Okay, so let's kind of wrap up the kitchen, do a kitchen recap. So we're going to go with tile floors, stainless steel appliances throughout. You're going to do an over-the-range microwave, install that. Your range will be a glass top range. Okay, remember the 4 levels of cabinetry, and remember you're going to upgrade your lighting. And we'll install hockey puck lights underneath the cabinets to shine down onto the countertops. Sink and faucet being focal points. So we're not going to cut any corners. Usually a good stainless steel sink is great. We're going to get a nice, classy looking faucet. And remember to open up your kitchens. Knock down walls if you need to make your kitchen big and expansive. A kitchen today should open up into the dining room and possibly the living room. Back in the older days, in the 60s, 70s, kitchens were built and designed as a room. A lot of kitchens, when I buy old houses, had they look like a bedroom with 4 walls. So I will usually try to knock down 2 of those walls to open up the kitchen and make it modern, and have it open up into the dining room and possibly the living room also. Okay, so let's talk about bathrooms right now. So bathrooms are one of the big things, right? We talk about curb appeal kitchen and bathrooms. Bathrooms, the standard is a lot different. Everything in your bathroom, when you're done, needs to either look new or be new. Either it is new or everybody thinks it's new. A lot of times I'll completely gut a bathroom, an old ratty bathroom. We'll just gut it out completely and just start over. Here's some, you're looking at some of the ones that I've done recently. Okay, and then we'll just gut it out completely and then start building it back up. Here they're putting in the backer board, starting to build it back. The waterproofing that goes behind the tiles. Now the tiles are going in, and look how it is transforming already. And it'll end up looking something like this, a variation of this, or it'll look something like this one here. And these are common. So let me talk a little bit. Let me pause on this picture and talk for a minute here. Let's talk about plumbing. And well, let me back up a second. So we've already talked about tiling the floors of the kitchen. You're going to use similar tile to floor the bathrooms. Okay, notice that one of the styles that I like to do is we won't only just tile the floor, we'll also come about halfway up the walls. We'll tile out the shower area too. Okay, Let me talk about plumbing briefly. So I'll put a checklist together for my plumber. So when he comes, he's going to check everything throughout the house where we have plumbing, and in the bathrooms we'll have him install the new toilets. He's going to check under the sinks. He's going to check all the existing plumbing. Anything that looks like it might give in the next year, we'll just have him replace it. And today they use all PVC pipe, which lasts for like 400 years. Okay, the hard plastic pipe, and it's inexpensive. The parts are inexpensive. We're just paying for the labor. So as long as he's there, I'm going to have a checklist, and we'll just have him go throughout the house and check all the things that need to be checked and fixed. So underneath in the vanity, the toilets, we'll have he'll be spending some time in here doing a lot of this stuff after the tile work is done. Okay, let's talk about the vanities. A lot of times they will, for wear and tear, they'll get wet and water and doesn't mix well with wood, so a lot of times they're going to be damaged. It's very easy to replace them and just put in a new vanity. You can get them from Lowe's and Home Depot. They come in standard sizes. The one you're looking at there, I believe, is a 36-inch. is a 3-footer. It comes with a fitted countertop, and then all the other thing we do is we'll pick out a nice faucet. And once again, because the faucet is a focal point, you don't want to. You want to get a nice one. Don't get the little cheap ones. Okay. So now you're looking at a double vanity. So whenever you can do that, we had enough room. We were able to put 2 sinks in. It's always preferable to having 1 sink when you can do that. And notice we also got nice faucets. Pay attention to the mirror there. Notice how we framed it out. That's a little trick that you can do with your mirrors. If you have an old mirror, a lot of times they will crust around the edges, and they can be expensive to replace. We'll have our carpenter just go and put a frame around it and then paint it so that the trim color, so that it matches and fits into your color tone too, just like you see in this one. In this picture here, you're seeing that we'll strip out all the metallic parts, all of the chrome, and we will redo that. We'll have it all replaced. So you want to replace the hardware throughout. You want to have it consistent. If you choose to go with brushed nickel, for instance, then that's what you'll go with throughout and make it consistent. Here you're looking at a bathtub that we're preparing to be, we're reglazing it, and it saves a lot of money. We get a kit down at Home Depot, and I have my handyman reglaze them. I used to pay $475 to have rainbow refinishers come in and reglaze one bathtub. Now we got a kit that cost me about $35, and I have my handyman do it. And there you can see that that's the same tub. It's hard to imagine, but it makes it look brand new once it's done. Okay. In this picture here, you're looking at a completed bathroom. This is, you can see the lights. Lighting is important. You see we framed the mirror. We've got new toilet, new hardware throughout. And we did not replace the vanity. That one we were able to keep, but we went in with, we did all new hardware, new faucet on that one too. Lighting, again, is important. We talked about that for the kitchen. Make sure your lighting is not only adequate, but also that it's modernized. And in this picture here, you can see the difference between the daylight bulbs on the outside and a regular bulb on the inside that has a lot more yellow. So one of the little tricks that we do to ramp up the amount of lumens inside a bathroom or a kitchen is we'll just switch the bulbs, and we'll go with the daylight bulbs, which make it a lot more, it's closer in spectrum, in light spectrum to actual sunlight, and it just makes your rooms brighter. And that's a handy little trick. Instead of adding additional lights, we'll just change out the bulbs and go with the daylight bulbs, and you can see the difference, right there in that picture. Next, we're going to talk about toilets. Your toilet should be either A, brand new, absolutely brand new, unless the house that you get the toilet is in very, very good condition and your cleaners are able to make it brand new. The toilets are relatively inexpensive. They do not cost, you could get, the toilet that you're looking at there, I think we paid $110 for it. and then a little bit of labor, for your plumber to install it after the tile goes in. So it's completely worth it. And again, when you have people, prospective home buyers walking in, it needs to be either a brand new, everything in your bathroom, or it looks new and you've got everybody thinking that it's brand new. So that is the standard. And it definitely applies to your toilets. And this is, now you're looking at, this is a completed bathroom, almost completed. We still need to install the mirror, it looks like there, and finish up the lighting. And so that's pretty close to being complete. And you can see just everything that we've talked about. And then for staging it out, we'll just put we'll get a nice looking shower curtain for that. Okay, and here is this is another completed bathroom, and again, everything that we've talked about you can see in here. One exception would be the floor is wood, and when I got this house, it had wooden floors in the bathroom. I decided I wasn't going to rip them out just to put tile in, so this is an exception to what my standard is. You'll make an exception from time to time. If you've got something that looks in very good condition, you'll go with it, even though it may not be your standard. But everything else there, that tub was reglazed. We even reglazed the tile behind it, so we wouldn't have to replace it all. Okay, all the hardware is new in that. We framed the mirror out, new faucets, new toilet. Okay. So let's now recap the bathroom. So we're going to start in with tiling, ceramic tile on the floors. One of the techniques that I've been using lately that I like is I'll also tile up the walls about 4 feet, about halfway, to give it that look of a Roman bath. We'll typically tile the shower area too. Plumbing checklist, you'll have your plumber come in and check for, just do an integrity check and make sure everything is solid. You'll have him hook up the faucets. You'll have him put in the new hardware. Have him assemble the toilet and stuff like that. We talked about tubs that you can. Sometimes you can reglaze them. If it's in otherwise good condition, but it's just old looking, you can have them reglazed and prevent having to buy a new tub. We talked about vanities, how often it's just the best move to replace them and get new stuff in there. They're relatively inexpensive. And it's important to have that new look in the vanity. When you have enough room, put in a double sink. New chrome and hardware throughout in the bathtub. You're never going to really get that stuff clean once it's been used. So we'll always go with new hardware throughout the bathroom. And another point I'll mention is that when I buy a house, if the bathrooms have those old sliding doors in the shower area, we'll just rip those out and just go without and go with the shower curtain. You never really are going to get those clean. And having it open, it actually gives it the appearance that it's larger and more space in there too. Okay, and then we also talked about mirrors. And if you may be able to save yourself from getting a brand new mirror if it's chipped and crusted around the edges by having your handyman come in and put a nice frame around the mirror. Okay, so now we have covered curb appeal kitchen and bathrooms, and that leaves everything else. Everything else is pretty much paint, carpet, and fixtures. And paint, carpet, and fixtures is going to cover everything else. We're typically talking about living rooms and bedrooms here. Okay, so let's talk about paint, the interior color. I start by using what's known as a color that sells, and I pick off of one of the major paint company palettes. I prefer a bone white or an antique white, and I pretty much use that same color as my base color for interior. You can go down and choose something that you like, but I suggest that you stick with one of the off-white colors, like some of the ones that you see here. But find a color that you like, that appeals to you. You want to keep it conservative. You want it to be something that most everyone is going to agree with and is going to like. Okay. And here is an example in this next picture where you can see we've painted it out. So I've got my antique white, and I have a total of three colors in my inventory. Okay, I use a flat white on the ceiling. Okay, I use my color that sells to cover all the walls, and then finally I use a bright white for all of the trim around the doors, the baseboards, crown molding if we have crown molding, around the window frames. Okay, and that bright white is really what makes your color that sells, makes it pop out and really stand out. It looks fantastic. And here's another example of crown molding. You can see the flat white on the roof, the bright white for the crown molding, and then in the color that sells. That's my antique white. Here is another picture where you can see we use the bright white, for trim, to trim around the windows, and down there at the baseboards there's flat white up on the ceilings. And in this case I used an accent wall, which is a few shades darker than the original color. We experimented with that. We think it turned out pretty good in this case. I don't always do that, but yeah, this time we did. Here is another example where you can see the door frames being trimmed out with the bright white, and then in the middle there is our antique white, our color that sells. And there you see an accent wall also, and a flat white up on the ceiling. Okay, and here's another example of a fully painted interior with the antique white. Your base wall color is our color that sells. You can see a flat white up on the ceiling, and then a bright white that is a gloss white. We're using gloss or semi-gloss for trim, and we trimmed around the windows, around the doors, the baseboards, crown molding. Okay, so everything gets trim, and notice it's the trim that really brings out your color that sells, and it looks fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about floors. So as we covered earlier, you're going to go with tile, ceramic tile, in your kitchen and bathrooms. I will usually also do it out in the foyer area, just inside the front door. And then everything else is pretty much going to be carpet. Okay, I use a mid-grade plush carpet. You can see them installing it here. And once you find a good color that you like that matches everything else, you can pretty much go with that same color. Here we went with a little bit darker one. This was different on a different project, but it's a mid-grade plush carpet. And we're pretty much going to do everything else with that. Now, every once in a while we'll get a house that already has wooden floors in it. I don't typically put new wooden floors in, but if just for cost reasons, but if I inherit a house, the house that I buy has wooden floors, then I will try to restore those floors and bring out the best of it. Okay. And here is another example of a really nice wooden floor. And here is something cool that we did with paint, a before and after of the garage. Now, usually I don't pay much attention to the garage. We're just going to clean it out and not spend much time or money there. But this is one thing. Notice the difference in the first picture, how dark it is. And I just had my painter walk out and blast it. It took him like 5 minutes to blast the walls, and just how it brightened everything up. Okay, inside the garage. So for very, very inexpensive, we were able to do that. There's a before. Look how dark it is, and there is after we hit the walls. Just makes a big difference. And this was the same thing we did at a different property. It just reflects the light better and brightens everything up. Okay, let's talk about fixtures. So typically I'm going to put ceiling fans in all of the bedrooms, and I may have one out in the dining room. Whenever I do have and because again your fixtures are focal points, we're not going to get cheapy stuff. Okay, and this is in the bedroom. So wherever I put in a ceiling fan, we'll also make sure it has a light also, especially in the bedrooms there. Okay, that would not otherwise have an organic light. And here's an example of one in a bedroom, ceiling fan with a light. And notice also, let me make a comment here about it's usually a good idea to put the closet doors, use mirror doors for the closets, particularly here in Hawaii and especially in smaller bedrooms. Okay, it gives the appearance of a larger bedroom when you have mirrors, so we'll usually do that. Costs a little bit more, but it's worth it in this case. Okay, now we've talked about lighting already as it relates to kitchen and bathrooms, and then you're just going to be consistent throughout the house and make sure the lighting is modern. Doesn't have to be expensive. Like these dome lights they're modern and they're relatively inexpensive. We buy them by the box. Okay, and then of course in the bathrooms we're using the newer light fixtures. Okay, and also doorknobs throughout the house. My preference is to go with the European style levers rather than the knobs, but I'll try to get one of the least expensive of the levers that I can find. And you just mainly want your doorknobs to be consistent throughout the house. If you're going to go with brushed nickel like this one, try to keep them all brushed nickel. Okay. So let's do a recap of the everything else category. Everything else generally includes paint, carpet, and fixtures. With paint, I have 3 paints in my inventory, 3 colors. One is a flat white that goes on the ceiling, and then we'll have a shiny gloss white that we use to trim everything around the doors themselves, the door frames, the baseboard, the crown molding, the windows, windowsills. And then of course our main color, the color that it's known as a color that sells, and you choose one that you really like. Go into a model home and take a look around at some of the colors that they're using and find one that you really like. In my case, I use bone white or antique white, and I love it. It always works. I've been using that for years and years. And those are my 3 colors. And never let your painter mix colors. Always make sure it's something that's off the shelf that a year later you can go back and it's a standard color and you can get it right off the shelf. You don't have to try to rely on someone to mix it and hopefully get it right. Okay. And then when it comes to flooring, so we go with ceramic tile on the wet floor. So that would be in the kitchen and bathrooms and right by the foyer inside the front door area. And then everything else is typically I go with carpet, and I use a mid-grade plush carpet. Okay, unless the house that I'm buying already has a wooden floor, then I'll do my best to restore that floor and polish it up and make it look really nice. Okay, and then fixtures. Fixtures are going to be your lights. We've already talked about faucets, but they're very important fixtures. Fixtures are focal points, so it's important to get quality stuff here. And in addition to your doorknobs, your ceiling fans, other fixtures are going to be your baseboard, or I'm sorry, your face plates and electrical outlets. And what we'll do there is, the switches and stuff. And what we'll do is we'll get those in white. We'll have them redone all in white, just like our shiny trim. It brings out the color that sells. So a lot of the older houses that we buy will have the old dingy yellow color. We'll have them all redone in white. Okay. All right, and so that wraps up the renovation video. I hope you have taken some good notes, and of course, if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask me. Okay, go out and make it a great day.